In this short presentation, we'll be looking at finance and budget decisions and some of the definitions surrounding that, as well as some issues and current problems within my district. So, the three definitions that we're going to be looking at is adequacy, equity, and equality, and what the author in the book says versus what we agree or disagree. And so adequacy, the thing here was supposed to be vertical, and there was also a chart that looked like that, but for some reason when it switched to this system it didn't fully adapt properly. But first one's adequacy, and so I really liked what he said about adequacy. I typically agree that we can measure it by whether something has achievement or not, and whether that achievement comes at a high or low cost. And so, just for fun, I redid his chart with cars instead of the four options he had. And so, I have Lamborghini in the bottom left corner here, and to me that's wasteful, but it comes at a high cost. So even though it is going to be a nice car to have, it's going to cost you a ton of money, but its efficiency or its achievement is going to be really low. So like if I'm talking about driving somewhere, I'm not going to have to go very far before I start needing gas again. And so then we have high cost, high efficiency with the Tesla Model S. So while it does produce good achievement, good results, it's still going to cost you a whole lot. And then on the other side, we've got low cost and low achievement, right? I could buy a golf cart. That would be something that I could buy for a low cost. But that low cost is also going to cost me achievement. I'm not going to be able to go on the highway. I'm not going to be able to really reach any destination quickly. So the best option then is kind of this low cost, high efficiency idea like the Honda Civic. And so I thought that was a really easy way to see kind of what he was saying as more of a picture versus words. And so I agreed with that idea. Equity is the one that I have a little bit of a issue with. History of equity is very interesting. There's a lot of debate on its merit, and the idea that equity is an equal outcome versus the ability to have the opportunity for those outcomes is very interesting. And I noticed that in his writing on this, he defined specific types of equity, and he stayed away from talking about the goal of those equities that he mentioned, but he laid out the procedure for what those are trying to, how they're going to be implemented. So I thought that was an interesting thing to leave out, the goal, and so I'm not 100% sure if I agree with him or not. One of the biggest issues with equity is that equity does not consider the individual's choices. So a lot of times equity says that it shouldn't matter what is going on in someone's life, they should still be able to achieve a specific outcome, and that often just isn't true because of choices that people have made themselves. So I think there is some merit to equity, but I think that in its application, the merit is almost always lost. And then equality, it really is two kind of main points. An equal opportunity for education, and in our context, and I believe that me and him agree pretty straightforward that in the 50s we have desegregation in Title IX with women, in the 70s, and then we have the special education needs from there. And so I agree that this idea of equal opportunity for education is great, but it does require the second thing here. It does require that your participation be valued. So unlike equity, where sometimes this can be left out, it is not left out in equality. And lastly, we'll look at kind of some issues that we have. A rural school's dilemma. So the economy has been pretty bad for several years now, and it has increased the cost of living. But the issue in Athens, at least where I'm at, is that the school district doesn't have the tax base to raise teacher salaries appropriately. So they rely on state funding for some of that gap. So, I used to teach in Dallas, and I made a lot more than I do in Athens. And that's just because the tax base where I lived could afford a much higher salary for the teachers, as well as being a larger district and a more condensed space. And so there's a ton of other factors, but that state funding is something that they rely on. In talking to the CFO yesterday, that for making up that difference, which is one of the issues we have from that is staffing. And so they've gone to a 4-day work week in order to say, hey, we're paying the same as we were before the 4-day work week, and so let's draw people in with that. And it has done that in some cases, and in other cases it hasn't been as successful. But for the most part, the 4-day work week has been a success as far as recruiting is concerned.